All right, so let's move on to the designing part of a website, the cool part. We like coding. All right, so first off, we're going to talk about some images. But before we get into that, let's talk about websites, right? What do we want a website to look at before we design it further on? Let's start off with like a bad example of what a website should look like. Right here. Can anyone tell me what's wrong with this website? What like catches your eye first? What are the criticisms you have for this website? Exactly. The background image is way too clustered. It's very hard to read the website itself. Anything else back there? Exactly. Where do you look, right? There's so much going on in this website. Where do you start off with? Right? And this is like one of the main points that we need to encompass in our website is where is the reader looking when they open the website? So next up, we'll look at what an actual website should look like, right? The good design behind a website. We got Postmates here. Now, can anyone tell me what's good about this website? Yeah, so the website tells you where to focus at first. What is it about, right? It says want noodles, right? It's gonna be about a food website. Anything else that catches your eye about this website? Like the main function of it, what you could use it for?
The eyes are not like right towards the word section.
Yep.
You have the hand pointing towards it, and it's also the brightest space in the website.
Yeah, so the function is clearly visible. So how to use this website? And besides that, it's very easy to read. It's very pleasant on the eyes, and it's just an overall better user experience compared to the last few websites. So how do we get to this point? How do we make these kinds of websites? It's all about images, right? How you can capture the reader's eyes. First off, let's talk about how one image can be so persuasive in the website design. We have an Uber design here, right? It only has one picture on it, and it catches your eye like immediately. It says en route on the what do you call it, the phone screen, meaning it tells you what's going on during the web app. We can also design a website where all the images are laid in columns and rows, where it's easily accessible, the information behind each image. As you can see, there's the titles and then also the genre right underneath it. So it's very easy to read and it's very pleasant on the eyes again. Another way to design and lay out your images is through a masonry style or a grid layout. The masonry style is usually used for like, as you guys might know, Pinterest uses it a lot because it's like very wavy and it's like very nice to look at. And then a grid layout is mainly used for Instagram. And this is a nice and pleasant thing to look at also. It's very defined at what you look at. Another way to design a website is a justified or a standard style. The justified one has less information within the image. It usually lays out all the images side by side, and then you can look at them at the same time. And the standard one, it uses sort of a, let me go back again, the masonry style, but it's more laid out straight ahead, and you can see every information beneath the image itself. But yeah. Next up, besides just using images itself to design websites, icons are like super important as to tell the reader where to look at. On this website, they use a bunch of icons, tiny little icons to showcase what each function of the buttons do. And this just makes it easier to navigate the website in general. And finally, when you're picking images to design a website, it's important to consider the emotional appeal. Like if you go back to the first website we looked at, it's very cluttered. It gives you a very like raw emotion of like, oh, what do we do now? What do we do now? And then the Postmates website was super pleasant to look at. It makes it a nice user experience. And you want to keep that in mind when picking what images to use, what colors to use, where to lay out your images in your website design. Now, let's get a bit more technical on the types of images you should use and how you should lay them out. First off, you guys know the two types of images, right? JPEG and PNG are the most famous ones. Here's a few differences about them. JPEGs are usually used for bigger images and they lose their integrity over time. So as they're saved more and more, the file becomes more blurry to read. So it's a bit harder to have them like stay on websites for too long. And then the PNG are mainly used on smaller like icons and stuff. They're super heavy. That's why we use like smaller icons to represent PNGs. And yeah, they're just used on that end. But the best part about them is they don't lose their quality over time. So they're better over longer periods of time. And what I'm talking about when I'm talking about quality is, for example, take this JPEG image right here. After one save, it's fine. After 10 saves, you can see like it starts to shake up a bit. Now after 50 saves, the image is very blurry compared to like the first few saves. So this is what we don't want our websites to have after a while, because they lose in quality and it's not an overall great experience for the user. So just keep that in mind when deciding what type of image to use, as is noted here by our stick figure friends. I don't want to read that, but let's go on. All right, next up is animations. And you guys are probably very familiar with animations and images. Can anyone tell me what this is? An image that is moving. What do we call that? A GIF or a GIF? GIF. Yep, exactly. A GIF, which is a graphics interchange format, right? It supports animation and it supports 256 colors. But the best thing about this is it catches people's attention. GIFs are like super interactive, and it makes the website come alive if you know how to use it properly. So let's look at some cool examples of how to use these types of movable images. All right, let me open this up. Oh, oops. Oh, it opened up here. Oh, nice. All right, so this is like, yeah, so this is like a designable website that utilizes GIFs with movable animations. This isn't like super hard to do. You guys will be able to do this by the end of the class. You'll see at the end, and you'll be like, oh wow, I learned so much. But yeah, just one of the examples. Now, how do I go back? How do I go back? This. All right. Cool. Another example of a GIF used in animation. As you can see, it changes with the button itself. So yeah, it just makes the website super interactive, a fun experience to have while you're navigating the website. Another format of an image is an SVG. Like you guys probably have not heard about this type of image format. It's less known, but it's super helpful because it's a scalable vector. So the image that it has can be scaled using code up and down, and it doesn't lose in quality, which makes it so much better than other types of formats that lose quality over time and when sized up and down. So this is what it usually looks like. Pretty messy, but if you can navigate it properly, super helpful. Yeah, so this is a previous student's work. So there should be no excuses for you guys to do the same. I'll expect everything at the end of class. End of the decal, not this class. Yeah, more on images. Let's keep moving on. So when deciding what image to use context-relevant images, meaning when you use an image, it should be relevant to the page. If the website is about NBA basketball, you don't want Pokemon on it, right? You want NBA basketball players, NBA-related things, not like Charizard sitting in the corner doing nothing. So it should be very context-relevant. There should be a very clear focus of what the image is doing. In this example right here, the image is in the back and is clearly focused on the main point of the website. Let's avoid poor quality of images, right? Don't make it the width too small. Like I know we've done this before in presentations when we make Google Slides and stuff. Try not to do this in your website, right? Because it's gonna make the image look very blurry and it's not very presentable to the viewer itself. Stock photos, let's leave that in high school, okay? We're better than this now. We can definitely come up with better examples to use rather than just stock photos of somebody like drinking out of a cup. That old man that everybody uses. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. Let's stay away from those and get more creative with our images. Personality. This might be one of the most important things behind a website. What does your website convey? And when we look at a website, we usually can tell what that website is about. Google, it has a big Google logo. You know that's Google's website. Slater right here. No, I mean Chegg right here. You know that's Chegg. Course Hero. You guys have probably used it. You guys have probably used Chegg too. But Course Hero, you can tell this is Course Hero's website. Now Slater here, that's one website to look at. You can't forget that's Slater's website. And they use images to help cater to that itself. Now let's move on to the image and contrast that should be happening. So contrast is key when deciding what to write above your image and what image to use. Here you can probably not even read what is being said at the top right there. Can anybody tell me what that says? It's in the middle of the image. Exactly. It's very hard to see, but whoever read that, good job. Yeah, so contrast is super important when deciding how to basically write your website. So here we're going to have an example before and after I'm going to show you. Before, this is what the contrast looks like. It's still pretty hard to read the words in the middle of the page, but if we increase the contrast, it becomes a lot easier. So you'll be able to see that contrast helps you define your text more above your images and just makes it better to read. Now, after we play with it a bit more, it becomes even better to read, and the image becomes less blacked out compared to this one, and the writing is easier to read. So just keep that in mind when designing a website. Contrast, super important. Next up, layouts. How you should have your website structured. So mainly we want to focus on the F layout. So here, what that basically means is the viewer's eyes usually go to the top left, bottom left, and top right of the page. That's what usually happens when you look at a page. So here we can see, like this is a good idea to structure your website around is the F layout. An example of this is Medium's website. Your eyes probably go to the left first to look at the major news. And Google Drive also utilizes this method. On the left, they have everything dashed to the left so you can move around their website easier. And it's just human tendency to look to the left more often when scaling, going through websites. But this is not always the case. Some websites do cater outside of the F layout, and that just depends on how you want to basically decide on how to design the website. Moving on, let's go to content frame. This just means what is around your website, usually established through like the 960 pixel container. Am I going too fast? Anybody have any questions? Very good? All right. And this is what I mean by a content frame. It's pretty visible, the pictures around, picture is pretty visible, and then there's nothing distracting you from looking at the main content that is being delivered. Same in this case. Around it is a gray box, so you know where to look at, and your eye goes straight to the middle of the moving image. So just keep that in mind. But before I end off the presentation, at the end of the day, designing a website is completely up to you, how you want to do it. It might look worse than others, but that's your choice. So I talked about the stock images, right? Here are a few image resources that you guys might want to keep handy when doing your midterm and final. These resources are pretty useful in picking icons, images that are pretty high quality and just make your website better overall. And yeah, any questions? We're all gonna make great websites now? Yeah, guys? All right, cool.